And it is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist. Well, no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal, judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her, they assaulted her, they tortured her, they stripped her, they murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have to head to Washington, D.C. to speak about Ilhan Omar. Why are we talking about Ilhan Omar today? Well, recently, she really just kind of lost it for seemingly no reason. She was asked a very basic question concerning whether or not she felt that it was a good idea for more of her Democrat colleagues to head on over to El Salvador to defend Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He didn't even say an MS-13 gang member, right? He didn't even kind of stick it to her like that. He asked the question in a very respectful and professional manner, not trying to trigger her, but she was triggered nonetheless and cursed this guy out, right? What every day that goes past and that goes by, these DNC lunatics are becoming more and more unhinged and to many degrees even violent. As you all remember a few months back when Representative Jasmine Crockett was asked, questions concerning her rhetoric and what's going on with Tesla dealerships being burnt down and shot up, she responded with violence and attempted to rip the phone out of the reporter's hand and scratched his hand up and everything like that. We all remember that. So yeah, this is the current state of DNC. These lunatics are definitely acting like the people that I call them DNC lunatics. And let's check this out here. Look at this video, and we're going to unpack it afterwards.
Congresswoman Omar, I'm Miles Morrell with the Daily Caller News Foundation. Do you think more of your Democratic colleagues should be traveling to El Salvador to advocate on behalf of Abrego Garcia?
I think you should fuck off. Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, what, Congresswoman?
Fuck off.
Who should?
You.
Why me?
We're not taking any questions right now, but here you go.
Yeah, thanks.
Really? Let's hear that one more time. That was so unnecessary. That was so unnecessary. Let's hear that one more time.
Congresswoman Omar, I'm Miles Morrell with the Daily Caller News Foundation. Do you think more of your Democratic colleagues should be traveling to El Salvador to advocate on behalf of Abrego Garcia?
I think you should fuck off. Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, what, Congresswoman?
fuck off.
Who should?
You.
Why me?
We're not taking any questions right now, but here you go.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment. Why was her response so nasty and disgusting? Right? I'll tell you why. She responded the way that she did to a very basic and I think it's a relevant question, because she does not believe, just like the Democrats don't believe, in what it is that they're actually doing as it pertains to this MS-13 wife beating gang member, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right? They know that he's a piece of trash who's right where he belongs. But everything that these DNC lunatics do is completely out of spite and in bad faith, just to be against Trump for the sake of being against him. And they understand that. They know and understand that there is no logical defense to get behind this man, but they have to do it just for the sake of being against Trump. And because Ilhan Omar isn't intelligent enough to even be able to talk her way around that question, the natural response that comes to her is just to curse you out. This is why I've stated on so many occasions that when it comes to MAGA's bench, you can say, right, MAGA's stable, of young talent, of new young talent, whether you're talking about the most likely soon to be governor, Byron Donalds in Florida, you're talking about JD Vance, you're talking about Marco Rubio. I mean, you're even talking about those like Tulsi Gabbard, even Stephen Miller, who I don't ever really see running for office, but even Stephen Miller, I've listened to plenty of their interviews where they'll get asked tough questions that'll make me go, ooh, how are you going to answer that one? And very sharp, quickly, they're able to flip that question right back around on you if it's a question that they don't want to answer because they know it might be a little incriminating to them and their party and what they represent, right? But you see consistently with these DNC lunatics, they're unable to do the same. They just get violent, or they curse you out, or they just blab nonsense like an AOC and just say complete, stupidity, stuff that doesn't make sense. But now I want to bring it back into, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because she opened the door for us to be able to discuss him some more. And I wanted to get caught up on, some more things surrounding him in terms of, what solidifies him being the MS-13 wife beating gang member that he is. Once again, you got to ask yourself, how do you even defend this? Let's take a look at this concerning this man, because we have some new updates around about him. Look at this here, right? So all this talk about him not actually being MS-13 and it's just alleged and there's no proof. This idea that there's no proof that he's MS-13 is ridiculous. The evidence is clear. Maryland County Police gang unit already confirmed he was MS-13. A reliable confidential informant who was an MS-13 snitch pointed him out and said he was MS-13. ICE officers, certified that he was MS-13. An immigration judge already certified that he was MS-13, as well as an appellate board agreed. But then you also have this as well. Maryland sheriff, deported illegal alien, backed by Democrats, is 1000% MS-13 gang member and domestic abuser. You have this Democrat-backed sheriff in Maryland who also stated, listen, this man is 1000% MS-13. Harford County, Maryland Sheriff Jeff Galler says 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an illegal alien who was deported to his native El Salvador by the Trump administration, is 1000% a member of the violent MS-13 gang and a documented abuser. We're going to get into him being a documented abuser some more, because more information has come out from that, right? A lot more information has come out that has solidified and certified that indeed is true. Now, if you needed any more proof that this guy was an MS-13 member, I mean, at this point, it's just case closed. Look at this post here from Benny Johnson. Wow, would you look at that? In 2018, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife's ex-husband warned in court that his kids were in danger because she's in a relationship with a gang member. This is the guy Democrats are protecting and fighting for. Look at this here. Let's read this written statement from Abrego Garcia's wife's ex-husband, right? This was in court. Look at this here. Filed August 20th of 2018. Look at this. The children are in serious danger at this time because she tried to kill herself and she left the kids with 11-year to take care of them. Broken English, clearly. English clearly isn't his first language. And I'm afraid of my kids' lives. And I'm afraid of my kids' lives are in the danger because she is dating a gang member. Now, this man's English is clearly broken and is clearly not his first language. But we can clearly read here because she is dating a gang member. Okay. So physical custody. The undersigned party is acting to safeguard the child / children who are now in the physical custody of Jennifer Vasquez Shura, right? I mean, this is Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife. What more proof do you need? But I show you all this, and there's more I'm going to show you to highlight that they understand that there's no defense for this and that they look completely crazy trying to defend it. But they have to do something as it pertains to opposing Trump. So there's going to die on this hill of defending gang members that are being deported and trying to come up with arguments for why violent criminal gang members that are beating up on their spouse should stay in the country. But there is no logical defense. So the only thing they could do, because they're unintelligent, is to lash out and curse you out or to be violent. Look at this here. Kilmar Abrego Garcia bragged he could take the life of his wife and get away with it. She claimed in newly unearthed protective order requests. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 2 requests have come out now. She didn't just file 1 protective order request. She filed 2. Let's get into this here. Look at this. Alleged MS-13 member Kilmar Abrego Garcia once boasted he could take the life of his wife and no one could do anything to him, according to a request for a motion for a protective order she filed in 2020. And I quote, "I also have a recording that he told my ex-mother-in-law that even if he takes my life, no one can do anything to him," most likely because he's an MS-13 gang member, right? Jennifer Vasquez Shura wrote in the documents she filed with the District Court of Maryland of Prince George's County on August 30th of 2020. The newly surfaced document preceded a 2021 protective order request she filed against her husband. In that document, she alleged he had punched, scratched, and grabbed her, with some of the alleged abuse so severe she was left with bruises and bleeding. So in 2021 and in 2020, she filed a request to get a protective order against this guy because he was literally, and I say this respectfully, beating the brakes off this woman. And not only do we have her sworn written statements about this guy that the Democrats just have to be protecting, apparently, because I guess that's how they feel they're going to save their party, is by protecting people like this. We actually have audio of her explaining this. Now let's get into that right now, because this right here, and it comes from this article here, audio. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife asked judge for protection from domestic abuse. And here's the audio right here. Let's play this now. It's unbelievable that this is the hill that the Democrats want to die on. Unbelievable. The Democrats have stooped to an unbelievable low that's even lower than that of the Biden administration. Let's get into this audio next.
I came to fill out a protective order. I think it was in December. But I didn't show up to the court because his family like washed my brain telling me that his dad was sick and not to do it. So I didn't do anything. But after that, it was like I would call the police. I have a lot of police reports, and I kept trying to get to the door basement to try to open the door, and then like he pushed me. So then when I was able to go outside to get a phone, I called 911 from a disconnected phone. Now they took a long time to get to the house. It was probably like 20, 30 minutes. So I saw a neighbor walking his dog, and I opened the door and I was like, help. And then when he heard me, like he grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me. And then the neighbor, like he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, like all the bruises, because it's not, even on Wednesday, he hit me like around like 3 a.m. He would just wake up and like hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times. And then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
I mean, wow. What do you even say to that? What do you even say to that? This is who the Democrat Party is protecting. When it comes to these MS-13 gang members, what happened to to liberal women? Like, you know, what happened to believe all women and protect all women and all that stuff they were talking about women pre-election, right? Believe all women, protect all women, stay out of women's business. What happened to all that? So all that just went out the window, and you're defending a domestic abuser now? That's what the DNC stands for. That's what they're all about. MS-13 gang banging domestic abusers. That's just wow. That was my first time actually listening to the audio. That's why I'm just as shocked as you are right now. Normally I pre-listen to this stuff beforehand. I didn't pre-listen to that, but I mean, this guy was just slapping her around crazy, right? And then we can't forget about this here. Take a look at this. Now, we all heard and are familiar with Kilmar Abrego Garcia being accused of human trafficking. Well, the 5-minute body cam footage of the police officer was released. Now, we're not going to sit and listen to and watch the entire 5 minutes of that body cam footage, but I'll just go through this article right here very quickly, only maybe a couple of sentences, and then we'll watch about 1 minute and 30 seconds of the body cam footage. But look at this here, man. Moment alleged MS-13 gangbanger Kilmar Abrego Garcia was accused of human trafficking revealed in new body cam video. Look at this. The moment Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the accused MS-13 gangbanger, booted from the U.S. and into the El Salvador's hellhole mega prison, was suspected of human trafficking during a 2022 traffic stop in Tennessee, was revealed in a new body cam video. One trooper can be heard saying that the 29-year-old Salvadorian was hauling these people for money, according to footage obtained by Fox News Thursday. He's getting paid to haul these people, probably to Maryland. I'd say, if I had my guess, the trooper said. There were 8 people in the vehicle with Abrego Garcia in the driver's seat, and no luggage as they made the days-long trek from Texas to Maryland. How? I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it's very obvious that this is human trafficking. You have 8 people traveling from Texas to Maryland, and nobody has any luggage. No, nothing. No, nothing. You clearly picked them up from somewhere around the border. These people arriving with nothing. They had nothing when they got here, and you picked them up to take them all the way to Maryland. It's very obvious to me, in my opinion. I believe I assume, right? It's very obvious. 8 people and no luggage, and you're driving from Texas to Maryland. That's crazy. When the officers put Abrego Garcia's name into the National Crime Information Center, a warning came up that showed he was suspected of being a gang member, a source told the outlet. After the law enforcement officer asked the illegal immigrant a series of other questions, including if anyone else in the car had a license, he then conferred with other troopers. And I quote, "You know what you got here, right?" One trooper asked, adding that he thought Abrego Garcia was human trafficking. A source told the outlet that in a redacted portion of the video, troopers talked about calling immigration enforcement officials. While a phone call was made, federal authorities didn't show up, Fox News reported. Ultimately, Abrego Garcia was only given a citation for driving with an expired license and allowed to go on his way. Abrego Garcia told the trooper the car belongs to his boss and also explained that his driver's license was suspended per the video. It's very clear that this guy was smuggling. And I'm going to play the video next. In this car that they're driving, they even added an extra layer of seats. And you're going to hear that in the video, then the body cam footage we're going to play next. He's driving on a suspended license in a car that isn't his with 8 other people who don't speak English and don't have identification themselves. In a vehicle that once again isn't his and has an extra layer of seats that don't belong there, driving from Texas, passing through Tennessee on their way to Maryland. This isn't the police officer's first time at the rodeo. They know what they're seeing here. And, as some of you may say, well, why didn't they just do something about it themselves? Well, they did reach out to the federal authorities, to immigration, and as it states here, nobody showed up. And I can get and understand why, having suspicion versus hard evidence is 2 different things. And in the climate that we're in concerning police officers, and we've been in this climate for quite some time now, where anything a police officer does comes under intense scrutiny, to which they're going to always be looked at in a bad light. I can see why they didn't want to run the risk of pulling this guy in and possibly being wrong. So then they made the right call of reaching out to federal authorities who have a lot more leeway with this kind of stuff. But they didn't show up. So at that point, you can't just hold them there. Either you're going to arrest them or let them go. And I don't think the Tennessee police officers felt they had enough to bring them in. That's why they wanted the federal authorities to come down, right? And since they didn't have enough to bring them in, I believe in their opinion, they let them go. I don't agree with it, but I get it, right? I get it. Let's take a look at this body cam footage now. Let me scroll back up to the top and let's get into this next. Look at this here.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good, and you?
All right.
Everything good?
You got a bunch of people in here, don't you?
It's 1 for 6. Yes. Go back to work.
Gotcha. Where are you working at?
Where?
Where?
San Luis, Missouri.
Missouri?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm from Maryland.
Okay. Now the reason I stopped you, we was running 75 down through here.
75?
Yeah. Of course, it's just 65 through here.
I know. I go to 70.
Going 70?
Yeah. What's the limit right now? Is 70 or 65?
It's 65.
You know what you got, right? You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money, is what he's doing. But sometimes they commingle dope.
No. But
There's 8 people in there.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. They put an extra row of seats in there.
Yeah. So he's getting paid all the.
Did you hear that? He said there's 8 people in there. And then the other officer said they put an extra row of seats in there. And then he nods his head like, yeah. Look at this. Let's take that part from the top one more time.
What's the limit right now? 65.
You know what you got here, right?
5.
You know what you got, right? You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money, is what he's doing. But sometimes they commingle dope.
No. But
there's 8 people in there.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. They put an extra row of seats in there.
Yeah. So he's getting paid to all these people, probably to Maryland, I would say, if I had my guess.
I mean, it was very obvious what was going on. It was very obvious. But, you know, like I said, I guess in their situation, I guess their hands were tied. They felt they didn't have enough evidence on them, and they didn't get any backup. They called for the feds to come in, right? But nobody showed up. So released they were. You know, and just as I close this video out concerning, you know, these Democrats being bad faith actors and seemingly this being the reason why they lash out the way that they do, I want to play this video in closing. Look at this here, Stephen Miller, and this disingenuous interaction with this very disingenuous reporter, not with Stephen Miller, but with the reporter. I want to show you this here because it just goes to really show and prove that these DNC lunatics and the propaganda wing, right, of their media, concerning their media outlets, they know that what they're doing is wrong. They know that they are not on the right side of history, but they go about being the tyrants that they pretended that they were protecting us against anyways. They carry on anyways with this charade of, you know, protecting the weak and being about equality when they're only trying to maintain their own power, right? Look at this here in closing. Check this out.
Is it the best use of the administration's resources to be going after moms of young kids, basically?
Do you yourself have an opinion on this subject?
I'm more interested in yours.
Well, what percentage of the, let's just pick an even number of, say, 10 million illegal aliens. Let's say that Biden released, I think it's closer to 20 million. Let's say he released 10 million illegal aliens into the country over the last 4 years. What percentage do you think we should let stay here of those 10 million?
I'm not trying to do a game show.
No, but I'm saying, no, but...
if you think that's the best use of...
Well, hold on, but is it your view that if a Democrat president releases 10, 15, 20 million illegals into the country, they all then should get to stay forever and for all of life?
Stephen, I don't have a view about what Democratic presidents do. I'm asking what the Republican president
does.
Okay,
so you don't want to answer the question because you know the answer is obvious. Everyone that Biden let in has to go home. Of course. I mean, it's a crazy thing to even ask. You think we should give administrative amnesty to some subset of the illegals that Biden... Here's how we're prioritizing it. ICE is going to continue to focus on raids against high-threat criminal aliens. We're going to use the entire force and power of the federal government to get them all home. Many will choose also to leave voluntarily and take advantage of the CBP Home app. But we are not going to ask taxpayers to subsidize the presence of a single illegal alien in this country.
I love how Stephen Miller goes about dealing with the press because this is something that he does rather routinely. They'll ask him a question, and then he'll ask them a very common sense question back in return. They can never answer that question back in return because it would prove Stephen Miller and the entire Trump administration right. So instead, they engage in disingenuous dialogue and disingenuous back and forth with Stephen Miller, which proves the point that we all know to be true, is that these mainstream media outlets are fake news, pushing propaganda for the DNC for the sole purposes of trying to make the Trump administration look bad. Not to make America great again. And I'm not saying that just to say Trump's slogan, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion are these DNC lunatics and the left-wing DNC media outlets, in no way, shape, form, or fashion are they looking to progress the country forward or get it back on the quote right track. They're only looking to push nonsensical narratives that they know to be disingenuous, that they know to be lies, that they know to just be simply not be the truth. But they push it anyways, literally for the sole purposes of taking down Trump. And like I said, I love the way Stephen Miller goes about this because he exposes them for who they are every time, frauds. With all that being said, that does it for today's news. So thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also do not forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. And until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.